Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the table. So I am trying something a little bit different today. So this is going to be one of the silhouette pieces. It's going to be a large deer's head, but the silhouette of the deer head is actually going to be the painting itself. So what we're going to do first is we're going to do the pour and the painting, and then once it dries, then I'll have to go back on, put a coat of sealer on it, and then I will, cut out the deer head itself, cut out the silhouette, and then we'll paint around it. So we've got the deer head on a negative space with the painting being the silhouette. So that's what we're working on today. I want to do the colors of blue. And so the first color is going to be the phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, sapphire, and this is the order that they're going to be laid on the canvas, colonial blue, and then sky blue. Of course, we're going to go from dark to light, and then we are actually we're going to do a type of swipe, but we're actually going to use a paintbrush to just do a swipe and blend everything together. It is the regular combination of Floetrol, water, and pigment. There's no silicone, no alcohol, no Rain-X, no additives or anything like that. It's just the paint and the water. If we get cells, we get cells, but it's not something I'm going for. What I'm really looking for is a nice blended streak going upwards and outwards. So that's what we're working on today. Trying to find the best place to put these. Okay. Okay. All right, let's get started. I didn't prep the canvas. I don't want a whole lot of paint on the canvas. And because we're painting over it and the edges are going to be done in the solid color, I'm not worried about the edges. We're mainly worried about just filling in this. The deer head is actually coming this way, and it's going to come out, and the antlers are going to come up like this. But we have to do the entire canvas, or we'll get bumps and grooves for the different layers. So it has to be one full layer. Oh, let's get this started while we work. Got some pigment pockets in here. This paint is a little bit thicker because I want it to hold its pigment and not become runny with each other. So it's a little bit thicker than I would normally do for a flip cup or something like that. Okay, Our pull with our brush. I'm just running my fingers through my brush just like this, making sure I get out any loose strands so they don't fall off in my paint. Okay. Tip, kind of pushing this stuff upwards. Okay, here we go. Kind of wish I'd flipped it around so I could pull this way instead of push. I think that's what I'm going to do. It's easier to pull than push whenever you need a really light touch. This around so I knock stuff over. Okay. look for inside of the deer's head, which is a nice move and contrast. Spill stuff all over the place. Now when you're doing silhouettes, you really don't want thick amounts of paint on there. So I'm actually tilting it, trying to get more of this color to come through. I don't want as much white at the top. You really don't want a lot of thick paint, because when you have to X-Acto knife the silhouette out, and when you're doing that, it's you don't want to cut into the paint, because then you can actually start pulling up the paint itself, and it becomes unsteady. So the thinner the better when you're going to do a silhouette like this. I'm actually might just let all of this big bubbly white, even though it was pretty, the way this turned out looks like wood, and I'll show you when we get to that part. It actually looks like actual wood grains with knots and all of that, and I really want that to come through. So I'm trying to push off as much of that white as I can, because this is beautiful. Beautiful the way it looks like wood grain by pulling the brush through it. And then doing the tilts, it's really come out nice. I'm quite happy with the way it turned out. So we're going to tilt it just a little bit more. So I don't want to pull much more, because up here we're starting to break. So this is good. This looks really, really awesome. I've got paint everywhere, which is not uncommon. Okay. I'm gonna have to try this technique again. Try it again. Okay, so let me go ahead and bring you down so you can take a look. Okay, here we are. See what I'm talking about, where things look like it's knots in wood grain? It actually looks like stained wood with color. Very awesome. this dry and stay tuned for the next step. Hi everybody, welcome back. So the painting is now dried. I really like the way it turned out with the textures and all that kind of stuff. Let me move that. And some jewelry that I made yesterday. It's finally all finished drying, but I made those yesterday. Okay, move those out of the way. Okay, so now we are on to the step of doing the silhouette. So this is the deer head that we're gonna do. I was gonna do the design on the inside like this one is. This was kind of my inspiration for doing this. But I really like the way all this looks, so we're actually gonna make the deer head white instead of painting all of this white. So we're actually gonna, you know, once I put the tape on, we're gonna push this deer head over to the side here. Because I don't want to cover up any of this, and then we're actually going to bring the outline of his body coming, you know, down this way. So let's get it taped up. So I'm going to pause you real quick while I tape it. Okay, so we're almost done taping. I use blue painter's tape for this. It's very gentle on the paint itself. If you let the painting dry fully. If you try and put tape on paint that hasn't dried for quite a few days, there's a very good chance that the tape can pull up your paints. And that's not a good thing. Okay, so now it's all taped down. I've actually spent a majority of my morning prepping all of my scroll saw stuff to get ready to cut. So, okay. So we are gonna outline the silhouette. And one thing that I've learned when doing these is I always try and just draw the silhouette straight onto the tape, because when you glue down an entire silhouette, it does two things. One, it makes it to where you have to press harder to get through the tape and the paper and the paint, or the blue tape, and then you end up cutting into your board itself. You're going to get some cut into it, but you really end up cutting into it a lot, and your paint can just peel off because your board just separates. The other thing that can happen is if you use like a permanent spray glue to put it down, and you don't do removable and you leave the paper on there, when you paint over it, you get an edge. You get a paint edge, and it's not really fine and clear. You'll get a definite paint edge. So I always try and draw on my silhouettes or trace them on so that I don't have to worry about all of that. Okay, so we have our deer where we want them. I'm just going to put some tape in a couple of places. So we can draw it on. Okay, that should be good. Okay, and I am going to use a marker to put this on, if I can find one. Okay. And I want a little bit thicker. Oh, I think all of my markers are thin. I don't know what happened to my thick one. Yep, they're all fine points. Okay, and I really need to use a black marker. Okay, that's fine. We can use this. And then we're just gonna draw the outline. see if y'all can see this. There we go. And also the good thing about doing just outlines like this is you can actually save this stencil basically and use it again and again. And you only have to cut out one. Actually, whenever I'm doing my coffee tables, all of my stencils, because I hand cut like all the shapes out, like the Superman shape and the Batman shape I hand cut out with a jig. And but my stencil for my sizes was actually printed on stock or cardstock paper, and that way they last a lot longer. Let's find some music. Make my own antlers here. I'm actually a terrible drawer. I can make anything out of wood. I can't draw stick figures to save my life. It's terrible. We're gonna have this one going off. There we go. Have you coming down. And you coming over. Okay, that's gonna be our cutout. That's where we're gonna X-Acto knife. All right, so got my X-Acto knife. Just put a new blade on it. Disclaimer, be careful. Sharp blade, lots of stuff can happen. I have cut myself more than once. But I've also shot myself through the finger with a nail gun too, so maybe y'all shouldn't listen to me. I don't know. Okay, so we are going to get this cut out. I'm just going to make sure that my tape is down really good and nice and solid. Very, very gentle pressure. It does not take a whole lot to cut through this tape. And remember, we are cutting out this silhouette, so all of this tape is going to stay on. So when we start pulling tape, we are pulling tape from the inside of the silhouette. Just make sure you remember that. If you decide to do something like this and you pull the wrong tape, you're going to have to start all the way over. Unless you completely change your plan. Very, very light. Press down. And I normally start peeling the tape immediately, just so I can see if I'm using enough pressure, and kind of really keep track of my lines. And I always start from left to right because I'm right-handed, so I don't want to be dragging and pulling this tape over because I tape right to left. So by cutting left to right, I'm actually going over the overlaps so I don't accidentally roll the tape up. broke my blade. It's all right. Nope, I have to switch it out. It's starting to dig too deep. Starting to get too heavy-handed and broke my blade. Okay. Okay, there's our silhouette. And so the deer head we are actually going to paint white. I kind of let my husband make the call on that one. I couldn't decide if I wanted to do like this deep brown or if I wanted to do the light or the deep blue or the light blue. And then I mentioned white, and he's like, yeah, let's go with just the deer head being white. It gives it that very nice wintry Christmas feel. So that's what we're gonna do. So once you do this part, you do have to, oh, I just found the tip of the flippin' blade that fell off in my palm. Okay. Once you do this part, I kind of gotta go over the edges with my fingers just to kind of make sure they're sealed, but I also seal them. I'll go and grab what I use. I've found that it works very, very well, and the paint still adheres very well to it. Now, a couple options you can do. You can actually use Mod Podge to do that, but I really don't like to. Okay, let me rephrase that. It's possible, but I don't recommend it. Using Mod Podge, because it will give you that kind of a thicker edge, and we don't want that. I use a spray lacquer that I get at Michael's, and it does really well at sealing in the edges, but it still takes paint very, very well. So right now I think it's only like 50 degrees outside right now, so it's still too cold for me to spray this and seal it. So I'm gonna have to wait for it to warm up a little bit, or it's never gonna cure. But I will grab the can and show you what I use. Okay, so this is what I use. It's just a Krylon lacquer that I get at Michael's. I really like it, one, because it dries very, very quickly. I mean, extremely quickly. So you can actually, I normally do 2 or 3 coats just to make sure that the edges are sealed so I don't get any seepage. It dries very, very quickly. And this one's actually going to have to warm up. I forgot it. And I left it outside yesterday, and it was like 32 degrees outside. Well, 36, I think. It didn't get below freezing, but it was close. And so it's really, really cold, so I'm going to have to let it warm back up to room temperature. And by that time that happens, it should be warm enough for me to, it says, you know, anything above 50 degrees and it'll work. So once it warms up, should take about an hour, then I'll be able to put a couple, 3 or 4 coats on it to make sure our deer is really sealed in. And then we will paint it. All right, see y'all soon. Good morning. Okay, so we're back. You know, I was planning on finishing this video yesterday. Once everything dried, out, Kiba, go on. Thank you. Once everything dried, I took this outside. I did 3 coats of the spray lacquer on it. This just really helps seal the edges and stuff again for the painting. So yesterday after I got done with this, I put the first couple of coats on it, and then I went to Home Depot to get the materials I needed for my displays, for my show, to get my displays built. And as I was unloading them, had leaned them against the fence, went to grab something out of my truck, and when I came back and opened the gate to the fence, 2 of the 2x4s slid off and hit me in the head. So now I have a concussion, and I have a pretty bad headache today too. So I was really wanting to get this finished and posted yesterday, and I'm a day behind because I have a pretty serious headache. So, but we're gonna go ahead and get this done. So we have it coated, and I checked the edges. They all feel really solid. So I think we should be okay with not having any leakage. Again, we're going to do this in white paint. It's probably going to take a couple of coats. I'm going to use this Flow Acrylic White, and we're going to see how it does. Normally, I would use the Craft Smart White, but we're going to use the Flow Acrylic, and we're going to see how it goes. If it doesn't give us the coverage that we're looking for, then we will switch paints after this one dries. So the way that I do these is try and get another seal on it. So I go around and I dab the entire thing. No brush strokes right now, I just dab it. I'm using a very soft bristle brush. I'm actually probably going to be doing one of these pretty soon for my sister for her birthday. I don't think she watches my videos. She's my sister's a doctor of psychology, and so she stays pretty busy. I don't think that she watches my videos. I'm not sure. If she is, I just spoiled her birthday present, but that's okay. Mainly I'm worried about the corners, the sides right now. I want to make sure I get a good coat on the sides, because that's also going to give us a barrier when we go to brush everything. If you get a good coat on the sides, it'll give you a barrier. And then of course, because you want it to be consistent all the way out, then I'll do the inside. Go ahead and get the bottom here, because I know I want that piece white. Add it. I have a lot of paint on my brush. Okay. Now that I've got that done, now I'm going to slowly just do really light brushing. And I always go with the flow of the tape. I try not to paint against the tape as much as possible. Now sometimes it's unavoidable, you have to. But right now I'm just going to smooth everything out. Because I don't want a textured look. If you wanted a textured look, which would actually be okay with something like this because it's kind of a wintry type thing, then you could leave that and it would actually look like, you know, a whole bunch of snowflakes or something like that. But I don't want it textured. Okay. Now I'm going to go through and do all straight brush strokes. Let me get that piece of hair out of there. Got it. Okay, so now I'm just going to start from the top and very gently straight down. And this is where the point where it's kind of going to be unavoidable that you have to go against the paint, but because you're doing such a light, just no pressure on the brush, literally just putting the brush on the canvas and pulling it downwards. So everything is, all the brush strokes are going to be the same angle. Okay, and now we're going to have to let this one dry. There's another piece of hair in here. I got it. Okay, we are going to have to let this coat dry before we do our second one. We'll be back. So I'm still waiting for this one to dry, but I just want to just do a quick tip. So sometimes when you're painting stuff, you can actually use the heat gun to help it dry faster. But for something like this, because you have the tape on the canvas, you don't want to. If you tried to use the heat gun to get this to dry faster, there's a very good chance that you could actually start melting the adhesive that is on the tape, and the adhesive is going to melt onto your painting. And then whenever you go to take the tape off, one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to leave the adhesive on the painting, and that can mess the whole thing up, or the adhesive is going to adhere to the paint and it's going to pull the paint off of the painting. So for something like this, you're just going to have to wait. You're just going to have to give it time and let it dry on its own, because by putting heat on it, heat melts. It will melt the adhesive on your paint. Even if you're using really good blue painter's tape, adhesive is adhesive. No matter what, it has a melting point. And once you get it to that point, you heat it up, and then it cools down and adheres. And then you put another coat on and you heat it up, and then it cools down and adheres. You're going to completely, whenever you pull that tape off, just completely ruin your painting. So that's just a quick tip. Normally, if I was doing something that I'm wanting, I would just hit the paint with the heat gun. But for something like this, you have to give it time. You have to wait. Okay, so we're back. I put another coat on it already. Just same technique that we're about to do. So this is pretty much dry now, so we are going to do, this will be a third coat on this one. This stuff, this paint gives really good coverage, but it takes forever to dry, so far I can tell. So yeah. I am going to be, while this stuff was drying, I was taking some photos of the stuff that's been completed and varnished and all that kind of stuff, so I can get it uploaded to my Etsy page today. I will be posting a Black Friday coupon code for my Etsy page in a little bit. I should have the code and everything ready and activated by the time this dries. So at the end of this video, I will give all of you the coupon code. So if y'all wanted to do any shopping for any of my paintings that you've seen that you've liked, or just to see what else I have, the coupon code will be active, and guaranteed delivery before Christmas. But it's not just for my paintings, it's for my crosses and my superhero stuff and all of that. It does say, 2 weeks, making and the delivery, but I think everything that I have on there right now is already made and just sitting on the shelf. So all of that will be available to ship pretty much almost immediately. So, well, I say guaranteed delivery for Christmas for within the U.S. because that's where I'm in Texas. But I would think international shipping would be the same, but I can't guarantee that. I have no idea. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit different. Now that we've got our dabs on there, we're actually going to go back and forth. If you go down every single time, then you're going to get a buildup on your paint. So we're actually going to go back and forth now that we've got it on there, still very, very lightly. Getting a nice, even coat on everything. And this one I'm not worried about it because we don't have tape going the other direction, going downwards right now. Okay, that is the third coat. I'm thinking we'll probably need one more good coat once this dries. And then we should be good, I think. And then we'll be able to let that one dry and then take the tape off and see what we get. Okay, so let me do my corner here. Just very lightly hand it out. Okay. Okay, we are going to let this one dry, and then we've got one more coat, and I think we're going to be good. Okay, so we're back, and we're going to do the last coat on this. I'll drink out of the way. We are going to do the last coat. Okay. Okay. Oh, just a perfect amount of paint. Look at that. It's all empty now. Okay. Get this on. Okay, and now we're going to do our long strokes. So that way it's all the same even pressure. And some of these places ended up getting a lot of paint buildup, so I'm just going to kind of scrape those a little bit. There we go. Just pull off some of that paint that got built up. Okay, and go the opposite direction. I think I need a little bit more paint right in the center of the deer head. Just a tad bit. There we go. Nice long strokes. I think that's going to be it. Once we take the tape off, once it dries, take the tape off. You know, for the bottom piece here, I went ahead and painted the bottom. But once you take the tape off, then you can really, you know, we can pull this antler down the side and pull all this and make sure that it's all covered. You could actually paint the entire border white if you wanted to. It's really up to you what you want to do with the border. Okay. All right. Got one more. I think this will be the last coat. And we'll be back as soon as this dries. Hi everybody. Okay, so this is all dry, and it is time to take the tape off and see what we have. Back to that one. Okay, that's all of it. All right. I got a few touch-ups on the top that I have to do. I'll be able to scrape those off since they are pretty far up there. I'll be able to scrape all this off. And then once I can't scrape off, I'll just dab with a little bit of blue, kind of fade them in. Okay. And that's what we end up with. All right, let me give y'all, bring you down up close. Okay, here it is. All right, thank y'all for sticking with me. Oh, I forgot about the Black Friday thing. So, hold on. Okay, here it is. This is the coupon code for my Etsy page. It's Woodworking in Faith 12, the number 12. And this will give you 20% off of your entire purchase. If you're within the US, it is guaranteed delivery before Christmas. If you're outside of the US, it really depends on, I guess, the shipping and all of that kind of stuff. So, again, this is the coupon code. It is active today, which is Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, the 23rd. And it is going through Saturday. So it's good for 3 days. Okay, now that we have that part done, I'll go back to this. Okay, so here's the deer head. It's very wintry, very Christmassy. Alrighty. Okay, thank you for sticking with me. If you like what you see, please hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And as always, God bless.